gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's February the 10th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, not sure really where to begin. We've got some stories on the website we could talk a little bit about, but I guess a good place to start is linebacker coach Charlie Strong emptied out his office yesterday and moved on from his, I guess, just under 1 year, about 1 year time at the University of Miami. And this was an interesting one because when Kevin Steele went to Alabama, a lot of people immediately said, Charlie Strong, promote Charlie Strong. And that would have been the easiest thing in the world for Mario Cristobal to do. Just take the easy way out, promote Charlie Strong. But there's a lot of reasons why that never had a chance to happen. There was never an in-house candidate for the defensive coordinator position. Charlie Strong was never considered for it. And it's understandable that he took exception to that. I mean, everybody is looking out for their own career and themselves. And, he decided he was not happy about that. Mario told him, I'm moving on. Charlie says, well, I'm moving on too. And he left. So, but Matt, I'm going to propose to you right now that Charlie Strong had unrealistic expectations. Okay. He's, I think, 62 years old. He hasn't called a defensive game in 10, 15 years. I'd have to go back and get the exact number. And what happened on the defensive side of the football here at the University of Miami during the 2023 season, or 2022 season, that would inspire anybody to say, I got to promote from within? I mean, why would Mario Cristobal be saying, I have to promote from within? I think Charlie Strong's expectations were out of whack. I think he should have stayed in his linebacker coach position. He should have bought all in, which he supposedly was for the last year, and stayed in that mindset. And he could have been a productive part of the future. But Charlie Strong, that's pissed off that he didn't get the defensive coordinator job, honestly has no place in this program going forward. Matt, I think it was best for everybody that he decided to move on. Your thoughts?
Look, Charlie Strong was the head coach at Louisville, the head coach at Texas, the head coach at South Florida. And, I guess he thought he was the coach in waiting because you know what? Josh Gaddis thought the same thing at Michigan, a little over a year ago. And Mario Cristobal had to make a decision. Jim Harbaugh had to make a decision. Their decision has to be what's in the best interest of their program. If Charlie Strong was being truthful with himself, if Mario was going to make him the defensive coordinator, he would have probably already been the defensive coordinator, I mean,
right.
If
he was the right guy, Mario would have made him the DC last year.
Yeah, they didn't bring him to be the co-defensive coordinator. They could have James Coley, for instance, as a co-offensive coordinator. They didn't bring him in as that. They brought him as the linebackers coach.
Well, they did give him that title, I think. He did have the co-defensive coordinator title.
Oh, did he? Oops, yeah. My bad.
Yeah, it's all
right. Look, then, yeah, so forget that part. That was a mistake. One of my first ever mistakes. I don't think I've ever made a mistake before. This is the first time. So I would like to argue that I made the mistake to try and get kicked off this show so I don't have to keep waking up so early. But unfortunately, I'm just that clueless. I didn't realize he was the co-defensive coordinator. He sure doesn't seem like a co-defensive coordinator.
Well, he wasn't. In actual practice, he was not.
Right.
But for the purposes of paying him.
Well, then that probably makes sense. Honestly, that makes sense then why he thought he'd be next in line. Because you give somebody that title and they have the idea, I'm co-defensive coordinator. When the actual defense coordinator leaves, I will naturally progress to be the defense coordinator,
But come on, man, this was a retirement job for him. Let's be honest.
Well, I don't know. He obviously didn't view it that way. It's
I'm
like
not sure. Like,
he's
did you see him recruiting his butt off or anything? I didn't.
I mean, he's like Prince Harry. He thought he was going to be part of the kingdom and be in line for the throne at some point, and then he found that he's not going to be in line for the throne whatsoever. And not only that, but they're they're not that excited about him or even have him around the family. They prefer he just like lives in the countryside by himself. Don't do that much recruiting. Don't worry about it. You just do whatever you do, and we'll figure it out on our side. And like Prince Harry, he's going to just have to enjoy his life in Tuscaloosa.
I mean, we're not criticizing Charlie Strong, but I would have said this. I would have said Charlie Strong coming into Miami, probably I thought he would have a bigger impact in recruiting than he had. Yeah. And, the other defensive coach that wanted the job, Coach Adai, I would have said the same thing. I would have expected him to have a bigger impact in recruiting than he had. And if you want to impress Mario Cristobal, you better be a killer recruiter and you better work your butt off in recruiting. And, I'm not sure that he had that many. I mean, he was recruiting basically the whole class almost himself last year, and that's got to change. So, I think, Matt, that a little upheaval here is not a bad thing. I think Mario's getting a chance to bring correct some issues after year one and bring some new blood into the program, which I personally think he needed to be able to do. And I think that this is working out for the right reason and giving him a chance to shake it up a little bit. And I'm expecting this program to be better because of it.
Well, I mean, not to keep with the royal theme. By the way, I'm British. I was born in Britain, so I'm going to use another analogy, not with Prince Harry, but it's the truth. I was born so long ago that back then they just gave you citizenship.
You were born in? Did you say you were born in Britain?
Yeah, I'm British. I mean, you can't tell from the accent, but I was.
Come on, there. Seriously? You came out of your mother's womb in Britain?
I'm British. Yeah, I'm British.
I
Thanks for the imagery.
Where were you born?
I lived in Britain for 3 years in London, and actually, my bris was performed by the Royal Moyle, and the Royal Moyle. That's true. The Royal Moyle.
Too much information.
Is the Moyle who to the actual royal family, and
we
the way the story told to me is I had a whole British accent as a 3-year-old when I moved to the U.S. And that when I started kindergarten, I don't think I had pre-K back then. Whenever I started school, I guess all the kids were making fun of me. My parents assumed it was the accent. They didn't realize it was just my personality. But they said that I stopped talking for like a month entirely. And then when I started talking again, I had a perfect, New York accent. So whatever. But anyway, getting back to the point at hand, I sort of feel badly for Coach Adai and for Coach Strong in the sense that, Gary was all high and mighty talking about how great a recruiter these guys were going to be, and the staff was going to be this amazing recruiting staff that Mario put together back when he did put it together. Gary was going on and on about it. I wasn't quite as sure because I never am. But Mario is like King Charles, because Mario sucks up all the oxygen in the recruiting room. There's no room left for anyone else. What King Mario says, King Mario gets the credit for. And what King Mario does, King Mario gets the credit for. And King Mario happens to enjoy recruiting to the point that he's constantly in touch with every guy that Jamil Adai is recruiting and constantly in touch with every guy that Charlie Strong was recruiting. And he overshadowed them because that's how good a recruiter Mario is. So while we perceive it as like what happened to Jamil Adai, he was a great recruiter at Georgia. What happened to Charlie Strong? He was like this star recruiter, from back in the day at Florida. And the truth is, King Mario sucked all their oxygen out because whenever a media member talks to any of these recruits, they're saying, what the first question any normal reporter asks is, how's it going with Miami's, recruiting you for a Miami reporter, what's going on with your Miami recruitment? Who are you talking to? I'm, talking to Coach Cristobal. And immediately, that's the big story, because the head coach at Miami typically never talks to recruits, That's not what they did, and that's not what they have done. And Mario does it. So the story all year really has been Mario personally recruiting everybody. And if he hadn't been, I think we would have heard a lot more of, Coach Adai is amazing. He's sending me these video clips. He's talking me through how I'll be used at Miami. I don't know what they would say because all I cared about and every other Miami reporter cared about was, wow, the head coach is personally recruiting you? How cool is that? What's he talking to you about? That's your story. Because assistant coaches are supposed to do that. The head coach is not. So that's really, from a reporter's perspective, our story. And I'm not sure it's fair to say that Prince Adai and Prince Strong were subjugated by King Mario. I don't know if that's really true or not, because I think they really probably did a fine job in recruiting. There was a top 5 class, pretty much, other than a defection. And I'm sure they were as much a part of it as anybody else on the staff. Just they don't get the credit for it because of King Mario. That's all.
I'm not sure that that's totally the case. I mean, I respect your opinion, obviously. I mean, I'm not sure that these guys were engaged.
Mario did not put together the number 6 ranked class by himself. The assistant coaches are really important because the players know that's who they are playing for. They're not signing with Miami.
Mario and Alex Mirabal did the bulk of the recruiting.
Mario helps, but every recruit knows, and every family member of the recruit knows, the guy that my child or I, if you're the student athlete, will be working with on a daily basis is the position coach, not Mario Cristobal, unless you happen to be an offensive lineman. And
that's not really true, Matt. These coaches are dropping like flies here, so that's really not true. They really aren't going to be
going to happen when they sign.
The staff is going through a metamorphosis very, very quickly. So I don't know, maybe people were thinking that that's the way it was going to play out.
Look, but people don't want to hear the truth. Should I tell people the truth? Do they want to hear the truth, or should we just let them believe what they've always believed?
What's the truth?
Truth is the coaches don't matter. If you have the most talented team in the country, you're going to be in the playoffs. I mean, I'm sorry. I witnessed it personally with Larry Coker and his staff, which really had no business at all coaching that team. And that team didn't even have coaches. They coached themselves, quite honestly. And they coached themselves to really what was a national championship. Like if you get the best players, you'll win.
Elite talent trumps coaching, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, you could have the best coaches in the world and average talent. You might win an extra game or two. But if you have the best team in the world or the best team in the country and even a little below average coaches, you'll still be in the playoffs. Like, that's just my opinion. I think it's the truth.
Well, I mean, we collectively, and I'll speak in terms of the Canes Nation, have been firing and ripping coaches for the last 20 years, one after the other. He's got to go. He's got to go. He sucks. He's got to go. Year after year, he's got to go. He's got to get fired. Well, what's been the constant while we keep firing all these coaches all the time and disrespecting all these coaches? The constant has been a lack of elite talent on the roster. Yeah, you're not seeing
100%.
Right? So, like,
no development and poor recruiting. But, when you have an elite talent period to start with, you don't need, like, you start on a different level. You don't need that much more development for them to be making plays. I mean, I was looking at Wesley Bissainthe, for instance, because we had a linebacker analysis yesterday, right? A deep dive into the linebacker situation. Everyone last year, Wesley Bissainthe is a star. He's a future star. He's amazing. The guy wound up, I think, starting 5 or 6 or 7 games. He had 30 tackles, 0 tackles for loss, 0 interceptions, 0 forced fumbles, and 0 fumble recoveries. Now, I think he'll be an elite talent, but he
didn't have a clue what he was doing out there half the time.
No, and no, that's true, and that is coaching. Of course, you have to tell them where to be and what to do, and they have to understand it. That's coaching. But at the same time, these elite players that other schools have, they get interceptions as true freshmen. They get fumble recoveries as true freshmen. They get sacks at linebacker blitzing as true freshmen. And, you just need to stack more talent on top of more talent, because it's hard for just one really good linebacker to be the only really physically adept elite linebacker in the entire linebacker corps. Wesley Bissainthe was, to me, the only healthy guy that was an elite talent in terms of physical attributes. And there weren't that many in the defensive line in front of him, honestly. I know Gary loved Mitchell a good. I didn't think he was the greatest defensive end in the world. He's like an average defensive end in the ACC. You say what you want. That's what I believe. All they had was they had Mitchell. They had Mitchell. They had Akeem Messidor, and they had Leonard Taylor, And Darrell Jackson was good and had a great future, but he was good last year. Not great. He was good. They had two, in my opinion, really, really, really good / great defensive linemen. That's it. One elite talent linebacker who was a true freshman. One elite safety. One elite safety who didn't know what the heck he should do mentally. And a really good cornerback. And that's all they had on the entire defense. So you just got to stack talent, man. That's not enough. And by the way, Kevin Steele did a good enough job with that amount of talent. There was not that much talent. I was talking to somebody.
Okay.
There was not that much talent on that defense last year. Kevin Steele did a good enough job, ranked 40th or 50th in the country in total defense. For what they had personnel-wise, I think he did fine. I honestly do.
He was. I mean, he was all right. He wouldn't have gotten fired, but I do think they can do better, and I do think that Lance Guidry's got a chance to be an upgrade. I mean, we don't know yet if he will be or not. I think he's got a chance.
He better be. He better be. Yeah. They need to do better. Obviously, they need to do better across the board on both sides.
But listen, Francis Magoa, Mario Cristobal. Samson Okinola, Mario Cristobal. Ruben Bain, Mario Cristobal. Jaden Wayne, Mario Cristobal.
We don't need to keep saying
Riley Williams.
Cristobal's name after them. Gary Ferman, Mario Cristobal. I don't need to hear all
Daniel Joseph, Mario Cristobal. Collins Achimapong, Jason Taylor. Malik Bryant, I'm going to call that a group effort. I'm not giving Charlie Strong credit for that by himself. Robbie and Bobby Washington, Mario Cristobal. Caleb Spencer, I mean...
You're just disregarding and disregarding.
I don't know who to give credit
on the roster.
Well, let me finish. I don't know who to give credit for Caleb Spencer. Emory Williams, I'll credit Frank Ponce, Jackson Carver, Stephen Field, Antonio Tripp, Alex Mirabal.
Mario had a hand in every single one of them.
Mark Fletcher, Mario Cristobal.
You're just disrespecting the position coaches. They all had a hand in every recruit.
I could go on and on. Yeah.
Mario did not land these guys by himself. Okay.
Javion Cohen, Francisco Mayagoa, Mario Cristobal.
No,
he didn't. He didn't land every guy by himself, but he did land the bulk of them through his efforts.
If you're going to be truthful, at least for Javion Cohen, say John Ruiz, he's the one who recruited him. But listen, here's the problem. Okay, they have a program right now. Like I've started looking at, we're doing something with some of the opponents coming up here, and I'm looking at Texas A&M. Texas A&M has 80% of its roster returning, and they were 5-7 last year. Okay, not the roster, their production. The roster got decimated. 80% of their production on both sides of the ball is returning. Okay, Miami, not so much, and they're playing in game 2. And Miami has 2 new coordinators. Texas A&M has 1 new coordinator who's a really good coordinator, Bobby Petrino. And this, I didn't even think about this when the schedule came out. But that is not a good second game for Miami to have, where they're trying to break in a new offense, new defense, potentially going against the best defensive line they're going to see all season, with 4 new starters on the defensive line, 2 transfers, and probably 2 5-star true freshmen against that defensive line, and those 2 linebackers who are studs who are coming back. That front seven's as good as Miami will see all year, and that's in game 2. That troubles me because Miami cannot lose to a 5-7 last year Texas A&M team, or the wheels are going to fall off in Coral Gables early in the year, where people are like, "What's going on again?" And you have to think, based on what Texas A&M has coming back, that they, even playing here, they are going to be a better gelled team for what that's worth 2 games in than Miami will be, learning a new offense, learning a new defense, being in games all together for just a second time. Whereas, yes, Texas A&M has 1 new coordinator, but they've all played together. They have their top 3 receivers back. They have their top tight end back. They have their top quarterback back on offense. They have the majority of their offensive line starters returning. They have a new running back. They got a 5-star signee. That's probably going to be their starting running back, And then on defense, 4 highly productive defensive linemen, 2 highly productive linebackers. They lost some corners. They have a top safety back. Early season games, you want to be on a level playing field in terms of, hey, they don't know what the hell they're doing either because we're still figuring it out, and they get better and better as the year goes on. That may not be the case in that second game, because I just started looking at that. That does trouble me a little bit. We're going to do a deeper dive into that over the weekend, but that's something you guys can look forward to. Matt Shodell's negativity continuing as I finish writing this story over the weekend.
All All right, so everybody wants to know what's going on with the offensive coordinator search, and I'll give you my instinct. I think the Jason Candle ship has sailed. I would be very surprised if he ended up the offensive coordinator now after all these days of commiserating over it. And who is the offensive coordinator going to be? Not ready to answer that question yet. I mean, I'd love to be able to, but I'm not. And the one thing that we're trying not to do is just start throwing random names out there and getting you guys all worked up over individual names that, as you know, in most cases don't end up being legitimate and stuff like that. I think that there's progress being made. I am seeing some things behind the scenes, and I think it's a day, or it could be a day, or maybe a day, 2, 3 away before we know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. I think it's coming pretty soon. I think
it better come pretty soon. Spring practice is coming pretty soon.
I mean, he could continue interviewing as long as he wants, but I think he's pretty close to done interviewing people. There have been a lot of interviews this week, and so we'll see what happens here in the near future. But I think there's good things going on. The receiver position. I mean, I still like Leonard Hankerson coming out of the San Francisco 49ers. I think you've got 3 Miami football alumni in Lamar Thomas, Kevin Beard, and Leonard Hankerson that are in reasonably decent spots in coaching. And I think Leonard, coming from the receiver coach position at the San Francisco 49ers, might have a chance here at that position. Lamar is not really aggressively pursuing it. He's in the XFL right now as an assistant head coach. Kevin Beard would have been the likely guy if Jason Candle had taken the offensive coordinator position. But with everything wide open, I kind of like the candidacy of Leonard Hankerson. I think he will be a candidate, and I think he's got a decent chance to land in Coral Gables. We'll see what happens there. And I think that there could be some other surprises down the pike as well. So a lot to look forward to. We are not, apologies, but we are not messing with Mario's hiring process. And there is nothing that can get you on the SHIT list than to start blowing up his hiring process, quite honestly. And what you've seen is most of the names that have been thrown out along the way have not been accurate. So, until we reported that Lance Guidry was the defensive coordinator and had been hired, you never heard the name. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Because if you are too wide open on these kind of things, you end up in competition for coaches. They end up costing you a lot more money, and you end up losing guys that you would like to hire because other people hear that you're pursuing them and they start trying to hire them too. I.e. Notre Dame, for example, with Jason Candle. And I don't know if he's going to Notre Dame. I'm just saying that Notre Dame did go after him after it heard that Miami was going after him. And this is how this stuff works. So, but I do think it'll be soon. Have patience, like I've been saying all along. I think most of you are happy with Guidry as the DC, and I'm relatively confident that whoever gets this OC job will be somebody that makes you happy.
Let me ask you that. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Would you agree that Mario would have preferred to have his OC hire a week ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason Candle. He would have loved to have hired.
When you say that's the way it's supposed to be, about not hearing a name until you broke the story actually about Lance Guidry. Despite what some other people tweeted out about sources, I think their source might have been Gary Ferman. Maybe
I've never seen anything like our business. Our business is so screwed up, man.
Whatever.
More people take credit for stuff they don't do. It's just
whatever. But that's not what I was getting at. I don't want to get you riled up. I know people.
I don't even care. Like I'm used to it.
Well, the funny thing is like ESPN will say, an hour after your story, they'll say, a source tells, Pete Thamel that, this is who they're hiring, and then everyone will credit ESPN. So, whatever. It's just kind of funny to see it. But anyway, you said that's the way it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be is what happened with Lance Guidry. Like, quietly get a guy who I think will be really, really good. And it happened within a very short period of time from Kevin Steele, basically departing, because Alabama had just started to go after him maybe a week earlier. It's not like Mario had, a month and a half, 2 months like he did with the situation on offense where he knew he was going to have a new coordinator. So it's disheartening to me, and it's why fans are disheartened. You can't brush it aside and just say, oh, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's behind closed doors. Like, we get it. We understand people are frustrated that it should have already happened. Gary and I both acknowledge it should have already happened. But what Mario doesn't want to do is settle for an offensive coordinator that's not going to be good enough and will get him fired in 2 years. This is
correct.
This is Mario's butt on the line. This isn't like, Mario just will hire whoever. If it doesn't work out after a year, he'll just get someone else. Like, this is his last chance, because
I don't know if it's his last chance, but this is an important hire.
No, it's his last chance, because he already hired one bad offensive coordinator. If he hires another who will stay here for a year or two, who's going to come after that that's going to want to coach here by that point? Nobody, and nobody good.
Well, the Josh Gaddis thing was a bad look.
Yeah, but
bad look,
right? And if this one is bad too, this is why I'm saying it's his last chance. Because if this one's bad too, no one's coming here. No one's going to be a sixth coordinator in 7 or 8 years of this program that's any good. And on top of that, it will mean the program's not doing real well. If the offense isn't good, newsflash, Miami's not winning 10 games in either of these next 2 years. And that means Mario's on the hot seat. No top offense coordinators coming in to work for a coach who's on a hot seat at that point. So this is his last chance. He has to make the right hire. And you know what? If it goes past spring ball and he still doesn't have an offensive coordinator, like, I'd rather he does that than hire some guy with a 3-to-1 run pass ratio from some FCS school, Like, so let it play out and see what happens.
Yeah. It's a big hire, and he's treating it as such. I mean, he had his guy that he really wanted. That was obvious. It doesn't look like that's going to work out. And now he is interviewing a lot of people, and he is trying to make sure that he makes this one count, and he's not relying on what other people are telling him this time around. Okay. He learned his lesson on that one the last time. So everyone's just got to be patient, and let him go. You're
saying that Josh Gaddis wasn't Mario's choice last year? Really?
I think he was sold a bill of goods on Josh Gaddis. I think he got opinions from people that he trusted, and I think he got pretty favorable reviews on Josh Gaddis. And I think that maybe some of those weren't great. In fact, and I was talking to somebody who has a Miami connection who was saying to me, I wish Mario had asked me about Josh Gaddis, because I have friends that were on the staff at Michigan that told me that told me stuff that would have helped Mario, but he never asked me.
I mean, forget that. Look, I know the guy won the Broyles Award. That's, everybody talks about that. But yeah, I mean, forget asking someone on the staff. You could just ask your friends who are Michigan fans. All my friends were laughing at Miami for hiring the guy. And he had put up some big numbers there, but they knew he didn't know how to run an offense, like an exciting offense, or, the offense to its maximum potential. And there was a big red flag the way he left Michigan, ripping the whole program on the way out the door. There was so many red flags. In retrospect, like, you can make Mario sound like it wasn't his fault at all, and just some people on the inside told him he has to hire this guy, whatever. I don't buy that for a second, because I know Mario's a micromanager who will work his butt off to make sure he knows every aspect of the program and will not let somebody in the program who is not, in his estimation, great. I think Mario made a mistake. I think Mario didn't probably go with what some people probably told him, that, hey, there are some red flags with this guy, and, what they are, and I know Mario loves the run game. Josh Gaddis, that was what he was bread and butter, was just running the ball. So I think Mario got hung up on this, we're going to be a physical, great offensive line, great running team. This is the great offense coordinator for that style, which it would have been, except Mario totally overestimated his own offensive line and running game situation. He just thought his receivers were bad. He didn't recognize that his offensive line was bad, that his running backs were not good enough. Like, he across the board failed on offense last year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, Mario failed last year. He knows he failed, and he's going to fix it. That's what a good head coach does. They acknowledge they made a mistake, and they fix it. Like, it's okay, Gary, to say Mario screwed up, because he did with the hire, with the offensive line perception that he's already had a great physical offensive line when he didn't, and he's going to fix it. Like, that's what coaching is, and I think he will fix it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to say that a great coach can make a mistake. They do. They all make mistakes. And the key, the best coaches are the ones that recognize a mistake and immediately fix it.
Not Super Mario, man.
Hey, was that Mario or the Middle Tennessee coach? I couldn't see the face clearly.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, he obviously did, make mistakes, and he's trying very hard not to make a mistake this time. And I think that it's good that he's doing his due diligence on all these hires and interviewing a lot of people, and hopefully it turns out well in the end. All right, let's take a moment and hear from
by the way, we're all rooting for Miami, guys. Like, nobody wants Miami to do better than I do. Okay, I think I want Miami to do better than even Gary does, because like, I'm a miserable person. Gary's an optimist. He's happy anyway. I need this. Like, I don't ask for much. I don't ask for much. I go out to fancy restaurants to try and ease my pain. It's like my it's like my whatever, name your pain medication. Advil, okay? It's my Advil, Tylenol, and aspirin all built into one. But if the Miami Hurricanes can be really, really good, I won't need to go out to fancy meals to drown my pain in stone crabs and steaks and weird, bready, Detroit-style pizza. I could just sit home and be happy eating, leftover pasta with butter like I did last night. That's all I need.
Let's take a moment and hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
Hi, I'm Nigel Pack, and when I decided to come to Miami, I knew I had to pack, including my Life Wallet. But you know what else I'm going to pack this upcoming season? I'm going to pack the house. But today, I'm going to stand here and make another trade.
The feed to Pack. He throws another. Give it to him. His third from the corner pocket. When he was assisted. Nigel Pack again.
Never leave your home without your Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.
He did pack the house last week, man.
Hey, let me give a shout out to my biggest fan, Crayon Writer. I know you love me. You know how I know Crayon Writer loves me, Gary?
He's out of control, man. He was.
You know how I know he loves me? Because for anybody to hate me that much, there has to be some love in there. Like, you can't hate somebody that much without having love. And he finally showed some love by saying that Latin is actually an okay thing to have learned. So, Crayon Writer, I am extremely grateful to you. Thank you.
He peeled off about 4 or 5 just blistering freaking.
Maybe it's a woman. I don't even know if it's a man or a woman.
I felt so bad. I deleted a couple of them. I'm like, this guy is being really disrespectful and nasty.
He's great. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, anybody who's going to write with a crayon instead of a pen and pencil, you have to cut them some slack. Like, it's not easy to write with a crayon. It always breaks in half while you're trying to write. Then the pointy end becomes all flat and looks weird, and it's impossible to write with. I'm sure Crayon Writer has a lot of issues, that he has to deal with his crayons. And if it makes him feel better to say that, Matt Shodell knows nothing, I tend to actually agree with him. So I think he's very bright. But I do appreciate him saying that Latin is a worthwhile language to learn, even though it actually is called a dead language. So, if you want to learn a dead language, go for it, man.
All right. Other stories there on the website today. There's the continuation of our series looking at the talent and depth across the board. Today, it progresses to the defensive back position, which will be working in a new system under Lance Guidry, who's kind of been a specialist at coaching defensive back. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys make progress under this new defensive coordinator. So Matt, this one was kind of interesting, I thought, because you projected the first team corners as 2 guys that were not here a year ago. And I'm not saying I disagree with you. One is Iowa transfer Terry Roberts, and the other one is Devontae Brown. And you put him over Darryl Porter, who was probably, the leader in the clubhouse at one cornerback. You put him ahead of Corey Couch. You put Chris Graves as a backup to Devontae Brown. Talk a little bit for a minute about just what you're seeing at this position that made you so certain that these total newcomers are going to claim the starting jobs at corner.
Well, I mean, to me, Darryl Porter is like the new Chick-fil-A cauliflower sandwich. It tastes like chicken, but like it's not really chicken. Like, he's supposed to be this great cornerback, and he looks like a great cornerback, and he does everything a great cornerback's supposed to do. But then he's like on the field, and it's like, it's like it's not real chicken. It's cauliflower. I'm sorry, Darryl. So I'm hoping.
Is there really a cauliflower?
Oh yeah, it's big news, man. It tastes just like chicken. The review I read, they said they tasted it, and it tasted just like the chicken sandwich. So I really think that person who wrote that should be fired, because there's no way that cauliflower tastes like chicken no matter what you do to it. And if you're a food critic and you're writing about food for the masses, that's not okay, man. Like, don't tell me that cauliflower tastes like chicken. That's like, Crayon Writer calling me an idiot. It makes no sense.
It's fried cauliflower.
Yeah, it's fried cauliflower in their special sauce. They put on the same bun, and everything else is just like the chicken sandwich. This is cauliflower. Anyway,
wow.
Darryl Porter is like the cauliflower sandwich. I'm hoping these two guys can be like the regular Chick-fil-A sandwiches with actual chicken, like real meat. Like, show me the real meat. Get it done, because they brought these two guys in as transfers not to be backups. They brought Darryl Porter in to start last year. He wasn't good enough, so why would I want him to start now just because DJ Ivy's gone? Like, I want guys that are better than a guy who was supposed to be the starter after he started at West Virginia. Is that wrong of me to expect? No. But if these two transfers they brought in don't work out, then you go back to the cauliflower sandwich. And if you got two cauliflower sandwiches out there, I'm not going to be thrilled with it. But we'll just have to see what happens. But for now, I'm hoping we get two real chicken sandwiches out there on the boundary corners.
All right, so you took the easy way out at safety, and you go Cam Kinchins.
The easy way. That's I'm not just
James Williams. Well, you did go the easy way out, because here's my question to you.
You're going to move the linebacker?
James Williams. How do you know Lance Guidry? You studied his defense.
James will not. James will refuse to move the linebacker. That's why. He'll be in the portal. If Lance Guidry comes in and calls James in his office, says, James, we're moving you to Will. James will be like, okay. And then the next day he'll be in the portal.
But he's got like a striker position in his defense a lot, right?
Well, you can call it a strike. It's a nickel, but it's a much more aggressive. Like, from what I saw in film, okay, and I didn't study that much. I studied the Notre Dame game, and from what I saw, and it's complicated. So first of all, he did use three linebackers a lot. Okay, technically his scheme is a 4-2-5, but he used three linebackers a tremendous amount last year, and a lot of it will hinge on the situation in the games and the opponents. In the ACC, which has a lot of 3 and 4 receiver stuff, he's going to use a lot of 4-2-5, okay? Like legit 4-2-5, where there's going to be a safety in the box. And to me, the beauty of James Williams is he's so big, so athletic, and so strong that you could blitz him. You could have him as a stand-up end almost in some situations. You could obviously put him at linebacker, and you could have him at safety. You could even, potentially have him, in the nickel covering a tight end. Like, there's so many different ways you can use him. I don't think that Kevin Steele did James Williams any favors, but by the same token, James Williams played hurt last year, couldn't do a lot. My understanding is he's not even going to be available this spring. James Williams, I'm talking about, is he's coming off, a surgery of some kind, from what I was told. So, we're going to have to wait till the fall to really see how he's going to use him. But I don't think he's going to call James Williams into his office, say, you're now at linebacker. I think he's just going to put him in the box 80% of the time, something like that. But the other issue with that is when you do that, well, now what? Who's your fifth defensive back? Because you have Brian Ballum, who I'm not sure is good enough. You aren't getting any safeties to transfer in because they're going to be backups probably, unless you can convince them that, don't tell James, but he's going to be in the box. You'll be a starting safety. Maybe you can do that. But otherwise, Darryl Porter, is he your nickel? Like, he's a little too.
You still got that transfer window coming up in May.
Corey Couch is a nickel, obviously, from last year, but he's okay. He wasn't great. So it's very tricky if you move James into the box a lot as essentially a linebacker. Who's the extra defensive back now that you're playing? Because the depth of defensive back is not real good across the board. So we'll have to delve into that a little bit. I think this spring we'll get a taste of it, but until we see James back on the field and how they're using him in fall practice, we're really not going to get a sense, because I think he's the wild card. I think, however, Lance Guidry's going to use that position as the wild card. And well, I said Lance did use a lot of 3 linebacker last year. I do. Again, I think he's going to really be – he likes to use a lot of the same personnel in different ways. So, in other words, there might be a guy where the quarterback sees him lined up in one spot, and then the next play is in a totally different spot. Like, that's what Lance Guidry likes to do to confuse the offense. Because when you bring in – like last year, Kevin Steele would have a different package. He'd have the money down package, or whatever. And you can study that on film, right? When Caleb Johnson's at middle linebacker, they're in the money package, for instance. And then from film, okay, here's the 3 or 4 different things they do when they're in the money package. What Lance Guidry does is he does different packages, but with the same personnel. So the quarterback's not aware. The quarterback doesn't see, now they have, they brought in this extra guy at linebacker, so they're in this package, or, now they're in dime because this guy's in. It's the same guys just moving to a different spot, and that creates a lot of confusion, believe it or not, because these offensive guys, they love to study film and how the personnel is used, because the personnel tips off a lot of times what defense they're going to be running and who's going to be blitzing, because you've seen it on film from the first 3 or 4 games. Very difficult in Lance Guidry defense to decipher that.
All right, there's also a few recruiting stories on the site. We've got a story on Miami Columbus 2024 defensive lineman Dalen Russell. He is a high priority target for the Canes, has Miami in his top 5 schools. We update where he stands. Canes have also extended an offer to 2025, 4-star from California, a linebacker, Noah McHale. He talks about his thinking as he moves forward in his recruitment. And another 2025 recruit who picked up an offer, Long Beach, California quarterback, Husan Longstreet, and he's already putting Miami in his top list of schools. And more to come behind those as we continue to try to get as many stories as possible on these new 2024 and 2025 offers that are going out, so that you could start getting to know the new recruits of the next year.
And I can't believe it didn't do the doppelganger twins ad after Haley had 24 second half points in that win yesterday against Florida State. But you do you.
All right, so that's gonna do it today for. That's it, man.
Wow,
we covered a lot of ground here.
Only 42 minutes.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground. We thank you guys so much for starting out your day with us. And
hey, Crayon Writer, if you like this show, tell me how much you hated it. Then I'll know you actually liked it.
No, I want Crayon Writer. Crayon Writer, you owe Matt a solid here. Hit your subscribe button. Hit your like button.
No.
It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube to get more people to watch Matt Shodell that Crayon Writer can rip on the YouTube comments. We totally appreciate that. And if you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please come join our community of Canes fans. Your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every day. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time, everybody.